So Sony is getting ready to release another full frame camera. Let's check it out. Hey, welcome back to my channel, boys and girls. So as I mentioned, Sony is getting ready to release a brand new full frame camera, and according to Sony Alpha Rumors, they have all the leaks as of today. So let's jump straight into their website and just check out some of these features. Now, according to Sony Alpha Rumors, the new camera is going to be called the Sony ZV-E1, and according to them, the specs are it will have the same E-mount camera system as the Sony a7S III. It will also have the same 12 megapixels as the a7S III. It'll be able to shoot 4K 60 and 4K 120 with no crop, but expect the 120p to come later on via firmware. No pixel binning, 419K ISO, automatic focus or autofocus from the A7R5, but with even better detection. Body overheats at the moment. A lot of new AI features, very informative. Similar body style of the ZV-E10, but in the size of the Sony a7C, and with some FX elements, FX3 elements. Price slightly below $2,500. Announcement is expected on March 29th at 3 p.m. London time. Now, what do I think about this camera? Based on the features, it seems to be pretty solid. Having the same megapixel count as the a7S III suggests to me that it's going to be very good in low light, and also suggests to me that this camera is going to be focused mainly on videographers and not photographers. Now, I have a bit of a problem, which I'll get to eventually, but also having the same autofocus as the a7R5, that's gotta be good because that autofocus is very, very well. I've never shot with it, but based off of what I've seen, it's pretty good. Now, having the same body style as the Sony ZV-E10 or even the Sony a7C, I could understand the overheating because those bodies are pretty small, and if you're gonna shoot 4K 120 or 4K 60, you better have a proper cooling system in there to deal with the expected heat. Now, maybe when they mention the having the elements of the FX3, maybe they may look to put a small fan in there. We don't know. We have to wait and see. But speaking about the 4K 120, now expecting that later on in the firmware, that to me sounds very, very suspect because that's a really big feature. Why not have that at the beginning, at launch? Why dumb it down now and have it released later on via firmware update? No, don't do that. If I was a consumer, I would not fall for that, especially if that was one feature I wanted in a camera that I don't have or I'm expecting to buy. I would want that feature up front, not later on. So that if what I'm reading here is accurate, to me that sounds suspect, and maybe the overheating problem is that great of a problem that maybe they just can't solve it pre-launch, so they therefore have to release it later on via a firmware update. I don't know, I'm just spitballing here, but that would make sense to me, but as a consumer I would not fall for that. Now, having a price tag just below $2,500, that's a lot of money, and that's direct competition to the a7 IV, which was just released just over a year ago. Which again, this suggests to me that they will find a way to dumb this camera down or cripple another camera in that price range. If they're gonna cripple this camera, I think they may only have one SD slot as opposed to two, or even if they have two, it may not be on par with the a7 IV. They may be slower, but if they're slower, how would they be able to compensate for the 4K 120 recording? I don't know. So we really have to wait and see. But one thing I've realized about Sony is that they have adopted the ways of Canon, and this is exactly why I left Canon a few years ago, because they find ways to cripple cameras just to be able to sell more of a different camera. I'm an A7S III shooter for the last 2 years. I got it not too long after it was released, and I'm still waiting on a decent update, a firmware update where I could compensate or correct the focus breeding in some of my lenses, namely the 24 1.4 and the 35 1.4. I find it hard to use those lenses because of all the focus breeding. And now you have newer cameras coming out that's not as good as the Sony A7S III, but they have those features, but we can't get it in the A7S III. And I hate it. I hate the ways of Sony right now. You know, it kind of make me regret buying it. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love the camera, it's very good, but you know, this new way of crippling cameras, I don't like it. I left Canon in the first place because of that, you know, and if you're gonna adopt that way, I think I'd have to move on to a new system, as expensive as it can be, or probably just give up cameras altogether and just use my iPhone, because those are pretty good. But anyways, I digress a bit. Now, going back to this camera, the features seems to be okay. Is it enough to, you know, to drive me to buy this camera? Not yet. I have to wait and see what the 29th of March holds. But there's nothing eye-popping. Now, if you're coming from a lower camera, maybe a crop sensor camera, or maybe the A7C, or even one of the ZV-E10s, I could understand you paying attention to this and wanting to upgrade. But if you already have an A7 IV or anything of that line, nothing here really catches my attention. So let's just wait and see what the March 29th holds, and then I will give you more of my opinion about the camera. But for now, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. It would really help me out in the long run. And yeah, so until next time, that's it. Peace.